Our News is brought to you by ALEXIOU.
Tonight on Our News, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis optimistic about the country's rebound. We'll tell you why. How the private sector hopes to lend a hand to get more shots in arms. Plus, 2 boat captains charged in the deadly Harbour Island boating accident. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, no changes to New Providence's curfew are being considered at this time, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. However, as Jared Higgs tells us, despite that declaration, Dr. Minnis says he's optimistic about independence being celebrated in July.
No, I'm not considering extending for any, not at this particular point in time. That was not the recommendation put forth. But we continue to monitor the situation.
But Dr. Minnis has alluded on more than one occasion that the pandemic is nearing to a close, with vaccines being administered here in the Bahamas and around the world. While the 10 p.m. curfew looks to remain for now, Dr. Minnis was asked whether the state of emergency, the constitutional device used to implement restrictions, would be ended.
That would be my greatest and happiest moment to release the emergency orders. I would be elated. In fact, on that particular day, you'd probably see me jumping and kicking my 2 feet together.
Minnis made the comments in Long Island after opening a passport office on the island. On Thursday, restrictions on funerals and weddings in New Providence were relaxed. Grand Bahama's curfew was also pushed to 11 p.m. last month. Minnis telling Long Island residents there's a strong chance that the country will be able to celebrate milestones this year, though.
With the progression of this post-COVID era, I can say that we most likely will have independence in July this year. Though modified. And for those junkanooers who are listening, we most likely will have Junkanoo in December.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, new changes to wedding and funeral service restrictions on New Providence, according to a statement released by the Office of the Prime Minister Thursday. Amendment number 9 of the Emergency Powers Risk Management Order says a graveside service or interment may now be held with a maximum of 40 people, not including the officiant and mortuary workers on all islands of the Bahamas. Meanwhile, on New Providence, mainland Abaco, Exuma, and Eleuthera, weddings may now be held in a religious facility as long as the number of attendees is limited to 1/3 of the capacity of the facility and that physical distancing, mask wearing, and sanitization protocols are followed. And Doctors Hospital is on day 2 of its staff vaccination process. On day 1, the private healthcare facility vaccinated just under 50 healthcare workers. Doctors Hospital CEO Charles Seeley says it's been a difficult year for everyone, and he's excited about the vaccine. While he could not speak to the exact number of private sector healthcare workers interested in the vaccine, Seeley says he hopes health professionals in both private and public sectors will make an informed decision.
We expect that person's going to make a decision. Doctors Hospital takes a position that we will participate in the vaccination. The decision on whether an individual will wish to take a particular vaccine is something that is individualized. And we try to assist with, as the government is doing, with the education so persons can make an informed decision. So we anticipate that healthcare professionals, whether in the private or the public sphere, will look at the information, we'll make it available to them, and we're here to support them in that journey.
Seeley says Doctors Hospital is in conversations with the government on how it can assist. Former NFL player turned neurologist Myron Roll says he felt it was his duty to come and support local doctors. The Bahamian-born doctor has been on the front lines in Boston.
Personally, I've done a brain surgery on a patient who was HIV positive and COVID positive, so I got vaccinated with Moderna twice to make sure that any of the aerosolized particles that were sort of released into the operating room, they weren't affecting me, and that I was able to take care of my patients the best way possible. So I think for coming down here, talking to the medical professionals and the public health advocates, I just want to inform them, look, you have to be very careful with these patients. You have to continue to manage them and their families because it's a whole family experience. And as we roll out this vaccine, it's important that we have equitable access for all people.
Roll says it's natural for people to be apprehensive of new vaccines, but they should get their information from reputable sources. He applauded the handling of the pandemic in the Bahamas.
I am pleased. I'm much more pleased here than I am in the United States, and that's not to shame, where I'm practicing right now in Boston. But I think there's a lot of political ideology that exists in America as far as wearing face masks, as far as adhering to curfews, as far as not getting together for a big political rally or something like that. It was based on party lines in the United States, and I think here, having a smaller population, but also having people who are more connected to their leaders and to officials, I think there's greater buy-in here that I'm seeing, and that's why I believe that the numbers are not as drastic and harrowing as they have been in America.
Meanwhile, Grand Bahama is expected to give its first jabs of the COVID-19 vaccine on that island this weekend. In other news, the captains of those two vessels involved in a boating accident in Harbour Island this week were charged with 5 counts each of manslaughter. Our Jillian Gray was in court and has the details.
2 men were brought before the magistrate's court charged with manslaughter in relation to that Harbour Island boating accident this past Sunday. Captain of the Bertram vessel, 33-year-old Ronaldo Grant in the blue shirt, was charged together with captain of the Boston whaler, 30-year-old Marvin Minnis Jr. in the long-sleeve shirt on 3 counts of manslaughter by negligence and 2 counts of grievous harm. It is alleged that on Sunday, March 14th, Grant and Minnis negligently caused the death of Candace McDonald, Leanna Cartwright, and Jose Roberts Jr. The pair also allegedly caused grievous harm to Rosette Carey and Shaquille Cash. Grant picked up a 6th charge as he was accused of operating a vessel without a license. It is alleged that he had charge of a 28-foot Mako Seacraft, not being the holder of a license in the prescribed form from licensing authority. Attorney Ian Cargill, who represented Minnis, petitioned Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt for bail for his client so that he would not be remanded unnecessarily. Kevon Maynard, who represented Grant, joined Cargill in that petition, arguing over the wording of the charges, as they say the two could not have been concerned together to commit the offense, as they were in 2 separate vessels, and the incident took place in the dead of night. According to the prosecutor, the dockets were under perusal at the DPP office. In response, Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt said whether the incident was by negligence or not, there are 3 people dead, and she did not want to set the wrong precedent. Grant and Minnis were not required to enter a plea and will return to court on March 24, 2021 for the presentation of a voluntary bill of indictment. They were allowed to speak with their relatives who flew in from Harbour Island before being remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
And yet another cabinet minister is defending the Minnis administration's decision to purchase the Grand Lucayan Resort on Grand Bahama. Attorney General Carl Bethel insisting in the Senate yesterday that it was not a terrible mistake, as he also suggests the opposition has shown a lack of love for Grand Bahama and criminally neglected the nation's second city. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Attorney General slammed the PLP for what he termed their abandonment of Grand Bahama. This as he also praised the Minnis administration for what he says they've done this term.
Grand Lucayan. The opposition is trying to make a proposition now that somehow the purchase of Grand Lucayan or Alucaya is a terrible mistake. You know, they have a history of terrible mistakes in Freeport. Start with bend or be broken. Bend or break.
Bethel was referring to former Prime Minister the late Sir Lyndon Pinling's 1969 speech at the opening of the Borco refinery on Grand Bahama. And the AG did not stop there as he continued to pound the PLP.
Start with the 2005 abandonment of the heart of Freeport, when the properties owned by the Driftwood Group, the Princess Hotel properties were totally damaged but not destroyed by the hurricane, and the Driftwood Good collected insurance money, walk away from the park, put a big fence around it, and that's it. And what did Hudson just do?
The Minnis administration purchased the Grand Lucayan Resort from Hong Kong conglomerate Hutchison Whampoa in August 2018 for $65 million and has plans to sell the property to Royal Caribbean and ITM for its redevelopment. The resort closed in October 2016 for repairs after it suffered damage from Hurricane Matthew. Nearly 1,000 people lost their jobs. In November 2016, only the 196-room Lighthouse Point reopened.
We bought it. Yes.
Bethel says the Christie administration did nothing and got nothing but derelict heaps left in the heart of the city of Freeport. Bethel was referring to the once bustling International Bazaar.
When Senator Mitchell and his leader, Member of Parliament Leader of the Opposition, MP Brave Davis, come to you and tell you they love you, say, you mean you love me like you love Driftwood? You love me like you love the International Bazaar? Do you love me like you love ALEXIOU? Because you want to sell that down the river too.
His comments did not sit well with opposition Senator Fred Mitchell, who jumped to his feet to fire back.
That's what the Freeport, that is what Freeport has. No, you'll love us the way the Romans loved the cross on which they crucified Christ.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Beautiful and breezy in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina. Meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather for your Friday. Beautiful conditions on the outside. We do have some partly cloudy skies just ahead of a frontal boundary. You'll see that in our satellite picture. The winds are out of the southwest at 7 knots ahead of that front. Temperatures in the 70s, and your field slight temperature also in the 70s. Satellite view, that frontal boundary now pushing into the northwest Bahamas, Grand Bahama, Abaco. You guys seeing some showers, getting into some of that action, but that high pressure continues to dominate. It's going to move out towards the east ahead of this front. Front is expected to stall across the northwest Bahamas throughout the rest of the weekend. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, why the Minister of National Security says he was surprised by prison officers' recent protest, and education officials concerned over claims that students are selling learning devices. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
National Security Minister Marvin Dames says he was blindsided by that protest by correctional services officers this week, noting that some of the issues have already been addressed. Bethany McDermott reports.
Disappointing is how National Security Minister Marvin Dames described that protest on Wednesday by disgruntled Bahamas Department of Correctional Service officers. According to Dames, he's always made himself available to the association, but he hasn't heard from Staff Association President Corporal Hervey Calmer since early last year.
I was not aware of what was brewing because I'd never heard from the president of the association at all this year. What disappointed me is the fact that you're going to move to this level and you haven't even given me an opportunity to update you on where exactly we are.
The National Security Minister says the last communication on record with the association president dates back to March 20th, 2020. He says he's had a good working relationship with every association president. Prison officers walked off the job in protest, demanding outstanding promotional exercises and confirmation letters which date back to 2014, among other things. Speaking on the sidelines of an awards and medal ceremony for RBDF officers, Dames was asked when those demands would be met. He says those matters have already been addressed.
All of those things are complete. It's just a matter of when we will release them.
Dames, however, stressed that there is a process.
I want just what they want, right? I want to make that extremely clear. And that's why I continue to fight to get it.
He also touted improvements made to the facility in the last 4 years, which he says is a testament to the fact that the Minister administration is acting in good faith.
The prison was at a state where they had no communication equipment that our government would have approved. We have approved CCTV. We have upgraded their administrative offices, damages from Matthew that were never attended to. We have done extensive work in in the maximum security section of the prisons.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
And more than 15,000 students have received devices from the Ministry of Education to help them access virtual learning platforms since the start of the pandemic, according to Education Minister Jeff Lloyd. However, the minister says he's learned the disturbing news that some of these devices may be sold on the streets.
Unfortunately, some news is coming to me that students who have received their devices have decided to sell them.
Lloyd telling reporters today that 80 to 90% of the students in the public education system have been equipped with devices and have access to internet to facilitate virtual learning. However, he says he's heard from multiple sources that the devices are not being used as intended, and some may even be sold by students. However, Lloyd reminds parents that they were given custody of the devices and agreed to certain parameters.
And we have a form for each parent to sign, which invites them to be very careful about these devices, to take custodial care of these devices, and to ensure that they are not sold or not damaged or used for other than educational purposes. But yet, enough information is coming to me, I accept it is coming through outside sources, that some students are choosing to sell their devices.
Then there are others who still have their devices but are not using them.
We have found situations where students do have the devices, do have internet connectivity, but they are on the streets riding their bicycles. This is a feature of parenting and parenting control.
Lloyd adds that the Ministry of Education has also been providing physical lesson packets for use at home that are available for pickup from schools on Fridays. However, he says not many students have taken advantage of that system. And the Ministry of Education hopes to return all students across the country to face-to-face learning at the start of the new school year in September 2021, according to education officials.
It's our hope that by September, we could have full face-to-face. Of course, as we've said over time, that it was always our desire, it is always our desire to have full face-to-face instruction. We make these adjustments only based on the prevailing health situations and the rules that are set forth by competent authority and Ministry of Health.
Education Minister Jeff Lloyd says as more Bahamians get vaccinated, the hope is that the country and education system can begin to return to some sense of normalcy.
I'm going today, thank God, and I want to use this opportunity to encourage all Bahamians to vaccinate, because when we get to the place where the majority of our adult population is vaccinated and the country can return to what we may consider normal or the new normal, we can then look with some anticipation and very high expectation that come September of 2021, what most students and teachers and us in the educational system desire most urgently, and that is schools will return to what we have traditionally been experiencing as normal.
This as education officials today announced that national examinations in the country will be held beginning April 13th. Education Director Marcellus Taylor says exams for the 2019-2020 school year were held in secondary schools and on family islands, and he doesn't anticipate any challenges following the same model this year.
All of our schools which host the national exams are in a position to either hold the exams on their campus or alternative arrangements made to accommodate any overflow.
As of March 12th, there were 5,087 students registered for the BGCSE exams. 9,382 students were registered for the BJC examinations. For a full list of exam dates, contact the Ministry of Education or your school. When our news comes back from the break, how business is bouncing back on Harbour Island. And the hottest sports highlights are still to come. The details when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. After a slow year, business is booming once again on Harbour Island. And with spring break now in full swing, all of the island's hotels and private residences are booked solid. Kyle Joaquin joins us from Eleuthera and tells us more.
Take a look just over there. A lot of yachts that are docked in the marina, and over here, just about every hotel is full. A good sign that there is a lot of tourist activity right here on Harbour Island.
Harbour Island right now, in the middle of spring break, is actually sold out. And I know it is this week, and I know it is for the next 2 weeks.
Marinas on Harbour Island are booked and busy. Remora Bay Resort and Marina managing partner Joe Dargavash says since December, yachters have been returning to Harbour Island. And over the past 3 weeks, they've seen a huge jump in tourist activity.
June and July have now become almost as busy as March and April. And for this year, we're really looking forward to that because it'll be we lost that last year.
With high-end boutiques, private residences, and hotels, the little island has become a hideaway, perfect for social distancing.
As of right now, the resort is full, the marina is full, so we're doing really good at this time.
This is a busy spring break activity.
Very busy for us right now.
And what it is that the boaters they're not here long term, but they're in and out. And with spring break going on, we still have a lot of business because a lot of their guests would come on boats and then they would stay at the private houses. So it gives business on both ends, in the marinas and in the houses on the island.
Driving on our golf cart through Harbour Island, you see tourist after tourist. Valentine's buzzing with activity even in the boutique stores, a telltale sign that the island is making a strong rebound. But there are so many you won't see as they're tucked away behind the walls of their private residences.
Now with the vaccines rolling out, we've getting even more requests and a lot of longer term requests. So people are coming and staying for 6 months, people are coming and staying for 3 months. They're just taking the time. I didn't expect it to pick up this fast, but we're seeing a high demand for properties for sale as well as rentals on the island. So I think it's a good thing.
ALEXIOU says what makes it even better is bookings and sales have already started for 2022. From Harbour Island for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
What's new in sports? Marcellus Hall has the latest.
All right, thanks a lot. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall, and last night, DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns, they've been playing some good basketball, taking on the team with the worst record in the league, Minnesota Timberwolves. Stands to reason they should have picked up a win, perhaps, but maybe not. Let's take a look. DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns on the floor last night, taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Suns, absolutely no answers for the combination of Karl Anthony Towns and #1 overall draft pick Anthony Edwards. Rookie Edwards scoring a career-high 42 points, with Towns dropping in 41. Guess what? They pull off the upset victory, 123-119. Ayton, himself a former #1 overall draft pick, he would play 26 minutes, finished with 14 points, 7 rebounds, and an assist. Suns with the loss, they fall to 26-13, still third place in the Western Conference. Two squads meet again tonight, so a chance for revenge for DeAndre and crew. And of course, let's not forget that the NCAA tournament underway. Potential NBA player Kai Jones and his Texas Longhorns, they're in action this weekend. As a matter of fact, tomorrow morning, we'll see how they can do as the tournament progresses. That's your check on sports. Have a great weekend. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Well, how's the weekend weather looking? Greg has the answer coming up, plus more than 150 Defense Force officers awarded. The details after this.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. There may be rain ahead this weekend. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks again, Christina, and a happy Friday evening, everybody. Very nice conditions across most of the islands. We have a frontal boundary pushing into the northwest Bahamas. See that on our satellite view. That frontal boundary is weakening as it pushes towards the southeast. Some showers and isolated thunderstorms occurring across Grand Bahama, the Abaco Coast. We expect this boundary to stall out across the northwest Bahamas. A low pressure system will develop along that into the weekend, so we will remain with some elevated rain chances through the latter part of the week. But behind that, nice conditions expected into your next week. Boating conditions, the winds will start off southwesterly ahead of the front in northwest Bahamas, but shifting northeast to east 10 to 15. Seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean, while in the central and southeastern islands, an east to southeasterly flow continuing at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be running 2 to 4 feet. Your high tide will be at 11:17 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Wednesday. That's a look at our weather. Have a beautiful weekend, everybody. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. Well, more than 150 Royal Bahamas Defense Force officers were presented medals and awards for distinguished service to the force on Thursday and Friday. The awards reflect the highest levels of performance and achievement over the recipient's career. National Security Minister Marvin Dame says the honorees are those who put the nation above themselves.
Today's award and medals are about offering these special persons our reverence as a nation and as a military, and ensuring that the best among us, their bravery, their sacrifice, and their selflessness are honored and never forgotten.
Awards include Distinguished Service Decoration, Meritorious Service Decoration, and the Long Service and Good Conduct Decoration. Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas. Stay tuned for a new episode of For the Love of Music right now.